Hello friends, I hope you're well. Welcome back to Total Transfers, the show where we go over some of the latest and breaking news in the world of Premier League transfers. The transfer window is still open and will be for the next couple of weeks. There is not a lot of time left for the clubs to be doing their business, but there is still business to be done. I've got a couple of things that we need to discuss today, some transfers, some rumours, and just all of that good stuff. So join me as we go into the transfer window once again and talk about some of the major deals. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload, and let's talk about transfers. We'll start with Wolves' massive signing, club record signing of Matthias Nunes from Sporting Club de Portugal. He is 23 years old, going to be 24 in a few days, and they spent £50 million on him, including add-ons. He's an exciting player, he's young, he's hungry, he's exactly what Wolves need in the middle of the park. He's a very good ball-passing, progressive midfielder who carries the ball when he needs to, which means he's going to be able to drive into space and create opportunities and passing lanes for his fellow teammates. I think it will work extremely well with Ruben Neves, because a lot of the pressure since Moutinho has been moved out of the squad, because he's getting a little bit older, has been placed on Ruben Neves, and he just simply hasn't been able to replicate a lot of his form that we saw in him a couple of years ago. With the burden of creating for this Wolverhampton Wanderers side, I think that both of these players are going to work in tandem together. I think they're going to play at a base of a midfield two as a double pivot, and then they're going to be able to go forwards and allow their attacking players in the likes of Goncalo Guedes, in the likes of Pedro Neto, Daniel Pedence, and the like. You've also got Raul Jimenez still to come into that side as well. You've got a number of attacking options now, and you also have the creative spark that's going to be behind them. He's quite good defensively, he can read the game quite well, and I do think that he's going to be an excellent signing for Wolves. One thing to mention is that Liverpool were also looking at him as one of the potential midfield replacements. They were looking at him to replace either Henderson or perhaps Thiago when he starts to get a little bit older. He really was highly sought after, but Liverpool pulled out of that deal, and that allowed Wolves to swoop in and get the deal done for themselves. A very good deal in my opinion. It's going to take him time to adapt to the Premier League, as I think a lot of players need that, but once he does, and once he beds in and creates a partnership with Ruben Neves, I really do think that Wolves are on to something special. From one incoming to one outgoing, and Morgan Gibbs-White seems to be on his way out of Wolverhampton Wanderers. The 22-year-old Englishman seems to be going to Nottingham Forest after Wolves have agreed a fee with Nottingham Forest of around about £44 million. I've seen a lot of indifference about this. A lot of people think that Morgan Gibbs-White isn't necessarily the quality player that they're looking for, especially when they're signing the likes of Matthias Nunes. But a lot of other people are saying that they should keep faith in Morgan Gibbs-White because he can come good. He's only 22 years old and he has a chance to grow. While I agree with that, I do think that to a certain extent Morgan Gibbs-White is very raw at the moment. I do think he's got talent, he's got running potential, and he's definitely got a high work rate. He did very well for Sheffield United in the Championship, and I think a lot of people were expecting him to bring the experiences that he had in the Championship up into Premier League level and really improve his game and kick on. Now obviously only 2 games have been played, and it's not all too much that you're able to go into on just 2 matches, but it does seem that they're happy to allow him to move out of the door. Now for £44 million, I've got to say that I would do exactly the same thing. He hasn't shown enough promise that he's a player that Wolves desperately need to keep. They've also made a lot of investment on other players in terms of Goncalo Guedes and Matheus Nunes, and they might even go for a striker later on in the window. So they need to recoup some of that money somewhere, and Morgan Gibbs-White has never really been the first name on the team sheet. Nottingham Forest seem desperate to sign him, as they seem to be throwing cash about left, right and centre to be able to try and get a team ready to be able to defend their ability to stay in the Premier League. They found Morgan Gibbs-White as the prime example of this, and they're asking to sign him from Wolves. £44 million is a lot of money, and I think for a 22-year-old who hasn't really established himself in the Premier League as of yet, I think it's something you just got to take and just let go. What I would say is I'd try and put some kind of buyback clause in, or some kind of sell-on clause, because because I do think that he has some potential there, and I think with some nurturing, with some real game time under his belt in the Premier League, I think he can prosper into a really good attacking midfielder. I just don't think Wolves have the time to be able to nurture a player like that, especially when he's having some off games. And when a club comes in with just under £50 million for this player, and you haven't really rated him all too much, I think there's only one answer, and that's the fact that he's got to go. I wish him all the best though, because I do think he's quite good. Over to Newcastle now, and they are not done in the transfer window. I think you could argue that with all the money that Newcastle have had, they haven't really spent all too much of it. They are extremely wealthy, and they've been going about their business in a clever and quite calm approach. I do think that they could have gone out and splashed the cash like Man City did all those years ago, but I do think that they're making a couple of sensible moves. This is another one. They're pursuing João Pedro. We've spoken about Newcastle needing a right midfielder or a left midfielder or even a striker because Callum Wilson is not going to stay fit. And 20-year-old Brazilian João Pedro from Watford, I think, is going to be the prime example for that. He's only 20 years old, like I've said, so he's going to be able to grow with the club, and I think it's a stepping stone for him at the very least. And if it's not a stepping stone, then Newcastle are going to be rising up the ranks, which is something that's beneficial for both of them. The problem is that Watford don't really want to sell, and why would you when you have a Brazilian starlet in your midst? £23 million was the recent bid, and it's been flat out rejected. Newcastle are expected to go in for another offer, and I fully expect that Newcastle will really push for this deal. I think it's an exciting prospect, and let's be honest, Newcastle have the money, which is probably why Watford rejected it, for one of the reasons anyway, because they know that Newcastle have a lot more money to offer. So they're just biding their time while they wait for a really good offer to come through the door. I do think João Pedro is better than Watford currently, and I think he's better than the Championship, and I think with a good attacking manager like Eddie Howe is, I think he can really get something out of João Pedro. He's going to be able to grow and improve, and that Brazilian flair is always something that's going to light up the Premier League. Keep an eye on this one, because I don't think it's going to go away. Even though the bid has been rejected, I do think that Newcastle will go back in for him. Watch out. While Chelsea's approach to their transfers has been fairly scattergun, and Todd Boehly seems to be going to every single club to try and offer them money, there is one certain thing at Chelsea, and that is they desperately need a striker. They've played their 2 games now, and it's pretty evident that they can't score a goal without walking it into the net. Yes, Koulibaly got a good goal, and yes, Reece James scored, but if you noticed, there was none of their strikers and none of their forward players that actually scored the goals. Raheem Sterling is good and he creates chances, but I don't think he's the main man to be scoring 20 plus goals a season. Neither is Kai Havertz, in my opinion, because he wants to come with his back to the goal and try to build up with the rest of those Chelsea players. You've then got the likes of Pulisic and Ziyech, who seem to be ready for the exit door. So they need a striker, and who are you going to get? Well, they are looking at Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Barcelona. Barcelona have notorious financial issues at the moment, and they're trying to offload some of their players. One of them is Memphis Depay. Another person that they're thinking about looking towards is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who has seen his starting spot really put under question after Barcelona signed Robert Lewandowski. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is expected to be going for around about £25 million once all of the add-ons are included. It might rise to a little bit more, but I do think these are going to be able to offer Chelsea quite a bit. He was very good at Arsenal until it started to fall a little bit sour, and I think he started to feel a little bit underappreciated. His performances weren't as good, and his disciplinary record wasn't amazing. But under Thomas Tuchel, who he has had a good relationship with before as they work together at Dortmund, I do think that they're going to be able to get the best out of each other. Aubameyang is a good player who can run into the channels and really push that back four or that defensive line further out, giving those Chelsea midfielders and wing-backs more space. It seems like a match made in heaven as long as they can get the deal over the line. Whether Barcelona are going to be able to play ball, I'm not so sure, because they want to get rid of one of Memphis or Aubameyang, but not both of them, so it depends on which one leaves first. Memphis seems to be out the door somewhat in his move to Juventus. They're just waiting on terminating his contract, which might scupper Chelsea's chances of signing Aubameyang. But of course it all depends on how much money they're willing to put on the table, and Todd Boehly doesn't seem shy of that at the moment. This one might have some legs. And last but not least, we have Manchester United news to be talking about. Why not? Because everything they're doing at the moment isn't embarrassing enough for this football club. They're now looking at Casemiro, and it seems like they're really going for it. 60 million euro fee is the going rate at the moment, and it's the wages that have really caught my eye, because apparently they're doubling his wages from 160k a week to over 350. Now, that just seems absolutely bonkers to me, and I understand you want to try and prize him out of Real Madrid, but is that really worth it? He'll be the most expensive, or the second most expensive 30-year-old ever signed. It seems a little bit daft to me, and kind of crazy. I might be wrong about this one, but it just doesn't seem like a fit. A lot of what Real Madrid do rely on a lack of pressing intensity. They like to soak up pressure and then hit players on the counter-attack, which is where Casemiro really shines, in those tight-knit areas and tight-knit spaces where he can really put a challenge in. He's not necessarily got the engine to be able to work through a midfield, and he's also not great at beating a press. His anti-pressing ability isn't fantastic, which means that he's going to be pressured continuously by teams who have a high intense pressing, a la Liverpool or Brentford or Man City. He's going to struggle there, and also he's not going to have the energy to be able to articulate and complete a pressing game like Ten Hag wants to do. I do think a lot of his weaknesses are going to be highlighted in Ten Hag's system if they were to sign him, and the fact that they're signing a 30-year-old on a lot of wages really screams quite Arsenal to me, actually. I understand the profile of player is quite high, but it just seems like a backwards transfer. I'd argue he's past his peak, and the reason why he looks so good is because Real Madrid have really set up their team to benefit Casemiro rather than Casemiro benefiting Real Madrid. They do work hand in hand, but I think he's being helped a little bit more than people are giving him Real Madrid credit for, and I think that's down to Ancelotti and the way that the team is set up. I've heard a lot of people argue that he's won the Champions League. Yes, he has, but how much of that was his actual midfield presence, and can he take his game at Real Madrid and translate it to Manchester United on that pitch? No doubt he's going to be better than a lot of the midfielders already there. McTominay and Fred are going to be well and truly past it when it comes to bringing Casemiro through the door, because he's by far a better player. I just wonder whether too much is going to be expected of him. And then there comes the question mark of, where is Frankie de Jong in all this? Are they forgetting about Frankie de Jong because they think it's not going to be an issue? In which case, that is even more hilarious than ever, because you're moving from one profile of player to another. Frankie de Jong is not Casemiro, and Casemiro is not Frankie de Jong. These are two completely different players, and they play a different kind of game. Casemiro is not a playmaker, whereas Frankie de Jong is. Casemiro is a destructive midfielder, whereas Frankie de Jong is not. It really doesn't make sense, and I'd like it to make sense. So if anybody knows, please let me know in the comments section below. All in all, this just screams of a club that seems desperate to sign players because of the poor performances and all of the noise outside of the club with regards to the fans wanting the owners out. It just seems like they want to desperately do something, and no one is accepting anything that they're giving them. So it just becomes a little bit desperate and a little bit pathetic, to be honest. We'll see how this one unfolds, but I'm not too optimistic for Man United, if I'm honest. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it with a like, and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about these transfers. Do you think any of them are going to happen? And let me know your thoughts on Wolves signing Matthias Nunes. How do you think that's going to go? I'm really intrigued. Do you think João Pedro will go to Newcastle? And do you think Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is the solution to Chelsea's attacking options? I'd love to hear from you, so please let me know in the comments section below. You can also let me know your thoughts on Twitter. You can find me at Zekko64. That's generally where I post when my videos go live as well. But of course, you can always know that if you hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. That's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.